Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the July 15, 2014 meeting of the Downers Grove Village Council. It is my sincere privilege to call this meeting to order. There are copies of our agenda that look like this on either side of the room on a shelf. If you haven't already done so, please feel free to pick up a copy and follow along with our proceedings tonight. There will be multiple opportunities for public comment, both with respect to items that are on our agenda tonight, as well as a segment under item 4 on our agenda, which is reserved for comments and questions of a general nature with respect to items that are not on our agenda. So when we get to that point in time, I'll invite anyone who would like to ask a general question or comment about things on our agenda to please come up and do so. But before we do that, it is our proud custom to begin our meetings by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. So at this point, I would like to ask everyone to please rise and join us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And now I'd like to ask our fine village clerk, April Holden, to please call roll.
Commissioner Jose?
Here.
Commissioner Olson?
Here.
Commissioner Rankin?
Here.
Commissioner Barnett? Commissioner Neustadt? Commissioner Durkin?
Here.
Mayor Tully?
Here. Thank you very much. That brings us to item 3, which pertains to minutes of prior council meetings. We have one set of minutes to review and approve tonight, and those are our minutes from our regular council meeting of July 8th, 2014. Do any members of the village council present here tonight have any questions, comments, changes, or corrections? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Those minutes are approved. And with that, we'll pause for a very special presentation that we are very thrilled to bear witness to tonight. And to kick things off, I would like to call up our police chief, Chief Robert Porter, to please make the necessary introductions. And we're looking forward to it very much. Good evening, Chief Porter.
Hi, Mayor. Thank you. This evening we have the newly appointed president of the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police, Fred Hayes, here to make a presentation to one of our officers, Officer Jeffrey Mertz, for his heroic actions, life-saving actions, and we're very proud of Jeff. And we're very happy that Fred Hayes, or Chief Hayes, is here to make our presentation. So, Fred?
Terrific. Thank you. Welcome, Chief Hayes. Welcome to Downers Grove.
Thank you, Mayor, Chief, Village Council, Village staff, ladies and gentlemen. It's my distinct pleasure and honor to be here this evening on behalf of the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police and our 1,200 members. Tonight is a very proud night for the Downers Grove Police Department. Tonight I am here to bestow the Award of Valor to one of Downers Grove's finest police officers. The Award of Valor, which is given by the ILACP, is one of its highest honors and is given to an officer who displays acts of outstanding heroism and bravery in a particularly dangerous situation. And certainly Officer Jeff Mertz is deserving of this award. So with that, if I could please ask Officer Mertz to please come forward. On January 4th, 2013, Officer Mertz, if you would please come on up here to the podium. As you can see, he's a very humble officer. Officer Mertz responded to a call at I-80 and I-355 in regards to an individual who was attempting to jump off the flyover bridge on the interstate. A particularly dangerous situation. Officer Mertz was able to position himself in a strategic position. Using his advanced training and skills, he was able to calm the situation to a point where he gained a tactical position. He positioned himself between his squad car and the guardrail of the flyover, well over 40 feet from the pavement below. Without due regard to his own safety, he was able to take advantage of the situation at a moment he didn't spare a second. When he reacted, he was able to tackle the individual, bring him down, and prevent him from jumping over to the railing, certainly to a certain death. An act of extreme heroism, an act of extreme bravery, and with that, I'd like to bestow to Officer Mertz the ILACP Award of Valor. Officer Mertz, congratulations on a job well done. I'll leave any final comments for Chief Porter.
Thank you, Chief Hayes. Tough act to follow.
Thank you.
I want to thank Fred Hayes for being here with us tonight, and Officer Mertz, congratulations. This is just one example of the things that go on behind the scenes that our police officers are involved in each and every day. So I want to thank Jeff for putting others before himself and for his quick actions that clearly saved a life. So Jeff, congratulations. Thank you for all that you do, and I want to thank the rest of our officers that are here as well. So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Chief. Appreciate that. And Officer Mertz, on behalf of the Village Council and all the residents of Downers Grove, we're very proud to have you part of our community and part of our force. Really appreciate your dedication, your bravery, and your quick thinking. Thank you very much, and congratulations. Appreciate your service. Well, thank you very much. Well, after that, I don't know if we really should bother going into anything else. I should probably just ask for a motion to adjourn now.
Careful, that motion's in.
That'll bring us to item 4 on our agenda, which I highlighted earlier, which is dedicated to public comments of a general nature with respect to matters not appearing on tonight's agenda. At this point in time, if any members of the audience have any questions or comments of a general nature, the protocol is to please come down to the podium, give us your name and address, and we would welcome hearing from you. At this point, are there any questions or comments of a general nature from any members of the audience with respect to items not appearing on our agenda tonight? Good evening.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well.
Were you talking about stormwater tonight?
We are not talking about stormwater specifically, although
Okay.
that's a broad category.
All right,
If you're
well,
talking
I
about
was,
the stormwater plan or the stormwater,
the stormwater
budget.
plan, I was under the impression that that was the discussion tonight, so that was what I would like to discuss with you. So since that's a general conversation, can I address the council about that?
yes.
Okay.
By all means.
I'm just going to dazzle you with facts tonight. Here's some handouts for everyone if you want to look at pictures after my little speech. My name is Molly Flynn. I own a home, or my name is Molly Scoggin, rather, sorry. I own a home at 6661 Dunham Road, which is about 3 blocks south of Downers Grove South High School. My property line runs along Prentice Creek, and I've been a Downers Grove resident and property owner for the last 6 years. My main concern and reason for being here tonight is to make a plea for the village and the council to assess and fix what's currently the disaster that's Prentice Creek and is supposedly one of Downers Grove's 3 main stormwater systems. The area in particular I'm speaking about runs from 67th Street to Dunham, which is essentially the entire north perimeter of my yard and my property, which has gross amounts of standing water in it. Furthermore, the water situation has gone untouched for years, and I assure you the area was not in this condition 6 years ago when we bought our property, as I never would have bought property next to an area with standing and stagnant water. The only time that water runs through the stormwater system are times such as the spring of 2013 when we got 8 inches of rain, and there's usually about 2 feet of water sort of rushing through the system. Essentially flooding will get it moving. Other than that, there's standing, stagnant, and still water, which is not only hazardous, but unsanitary and utterly unacceptable for an area in Downers Grove that's supposed to be dry land, or at the very least, something classified as a stormwater system. There's so much standing water there, and has been for so long, that the ground is now completely saturated and sort of turning like a mucky, fluffy substance which you can't even walk through. Approaching or going into this trench to retrieve a ball or object from my yard is utterly impossible and hazardous, and let alone we now live next to what is basically a mosquito haven because the water doesn't move underneath Dunham Road at this point to the other side. And I've attached some photos which you can look at afterwards, but there are photos of the east side of Dunham Road, which has about 1 foot of standing water in it, and then the west side of Dunham Road, which is completely overgrown with just weeds and foliage and whatnot. So you can tell that there's just no water that flows between these two parts of the road. I've actually begged and called for years for the forestry department to come out and clear the trees by the road, which have sort of shielded this mess for quite a while, and hoping that maybe air and sunlight would dry it out. After making a lot of calls to both stormwater and forestry last year, I finally got the forestry division to come out and cut some of the foliage against the road, which just kind of opened up the view to it, but obviously hasn't resolved the problem. In the meantime, I've been in contact with the Stormwater Division, and I spoke with Karen Dalton Lang as of late. And while she was sympathetic to my situation, she informed me that there's no budget to fix this problem, or, it's not on a budget to be addressed. So she suggested that I come to the council and ask for some help with this. But there have been people within both stormwater and forestry that have been incredibly rude over the years about the situation. They've pretty much advised me to treat it myself. They've told me to put mosquito pellets in it, which I do repeatedly so that my kids don't get West Nile disease or something worse coming out of this still water that just continues to sit there. So, we're frustrated as residents of Downers Grove. We've seen our taxes increase 15% in the 6 years that we've lived here. We've had the new stormwater tax come into effect, which doesn't seem to come into effect for our own property and help us. And in the meantime, I can't seem to get anyone within the village or like the stormwater committee to take responsibility for what is actually village property. I found a couple things online that I've outlined here, which says the 3 main stormwater systems, which I'm not an expert of in Downers Grove, but appear to be Lacey Creek, St. Joseph Creek, and Prentice Creek, and this is part of Prentice Creek. So it looks like it was on an agenda as a high priority project at one time with some sort of stormwater improvement, but we haven't seen any action or movement in the 6 years that we've lived next to this piece of land. There are neighbors in the neighborhood that say the village used to come out and clear brush and maintain it and keep it clear and clean so that water could flow through it. But in the years that I've lived there, I've never seen anyone so much as touch it. So in feeling that this is a blight to our neighborhood, that it's a health hazard, it's a hazard based on the mosquito population that's thriving in it, I'm just here to sort of beg you as a taxpayer to look into this and try to address the issue, because it seems incredibly unacceptable as a resident and a taxpayer of Downers Grove. And I've attached some pictures that aren't fantastic, but just to give you an idea of some of the mess that's down there. So I appreciate your time and possibly looking into this. I know it's a bigger issue overall, but it's definitely a big concern for us right now.
Understood, Ms. Scoggin, and thank you for coming down here and expressing your concerns and your views to us. Your timing is impeccable because while we don't have stormwater prioritization in projects and needs assessment necessarily on the agenda tonight, we are going to be talking about that very soon. And in fact, the current 2014 stormwater project analysis is available on the village's website. And if you get a chance, since you've obviously very thoroughly looked into this, and I appreciate that you did your homework before you came here. Thank you very much. And you know what information was already available to you, and this is actually a very useful piece, so I appreciate you sharing this with us. But I would check out the 2014 stormwater project analysis, which is currently on the village website. It is the most current discussion of what the current needs assessments are throughout the community, and it's going to be a tool that we're going to use in discussions very soon in terms of talking about prioritization of stormwater projects throughout the community. As you recognize, there are a lot of stormwater projects in town, and we don't anywhere have the means or the time or the money to do all of them at once. They necessarily have to take place in sequence over time, otherwise the whole village would be under construction at the same time. And the funding aspect of it has to be handled as well. So that necessarily requires some prioritization, and we actually have a pretty innovative new approach to figuring out which projects go first that is driven by data and driven by objective factors, because obviously everybody would like their project to go first.
Sure.
That can't happen.
Right.
So we're trying to do the best we can to come up with a prioritization that makes sense and is driven by biggest bang for the buck for different watersheds. Yes, the area that you identified, Prentice Creek, is absolutely one of the tributaries and watersheds that feeds into one of the important watersheds here in the community. I was trying to actually look up what the current status is of this area while you were talking, but forgive me, I couldn't get to
No,
it by
that's
the
okay.
time you finished. But we will be talking about this.
Okay.
And probably dozens of other areas
Oh, I'm
like
sure.
yours. And now I'm just throwing back more facts to you than you probably threw to me. We also learned a great deal from the torrential deluge that we had a couple of years ago, the great flood of April 2013. And that gave us a lot of additional information about how stormwater operates on the ground in Downers Grove. All that information is also being fed in, has been fed into this new analysis. And we're going to be talking about prioritization and also funding, because as you mentioned, there is a dedicated revenue source for stormwater projects in the community. Now, mind you, those dollars aren't anywhere near enough to actually get all the work done that we need to get done. What we do instead is we take those dollars and we leverage them, enable to us to get more funds, to actually get more things done. That's a conversation for another time. But one of the important discussions that we're going to have as a council is how much should those fees be going forward, so that we can, number one, not create too much of a burden upon our residents, but at the same time, try to address some of the projects like those that you're talking about. And it is that balance. We'd like the work done, but then we also have to come up with a way to pay for it that doesn't drown anyone, pardon the pun.
Right.
So this is perfect timing.
Okay.
Thank you very much for bringing this to us.
No, I appreciate it, and I'm just curious if forestry or stormwater, no one seems to want to accept responsibility for it, and I find it amazing to call the village, and they're like, it's your problem, you can put mosquito pellets in it, but I'm like, there's nobody from the village that should be out even treating it in the interim of getting into like a very large stormwater overhaul, so.
Sure.
That's sort of what I'm begging in the interim, is just
Sure.
that it's maintained as a village
And you
property.
raised two other good points, and thank you for reminding me. One with respect to what I would call routine stream bed maintenance. We can certainly look into that, and I don't have the facts or background or history in front of me right now, but we can take a look at that. But in terms of the mosquito abatement efforts, perhaps offline we can have a conversation about that, because there are different practices in different communities throughout DuPage County, and not every community will do the same type of mosquito abatement in terms of sort of the larvicide program that you're talking about. That may not be something we even do at all.
Right.
That may be something the county handles, but again, there's a larger conversation that's going on right now on a regional basis about better mosquito abatement efforts, primarily with respect to the West Nile vector-borne disease mosquitoes, which are the ones that carry West Nile virus, as opposed to the nuisance mosquitoes that we all hate, but they're not going to kill you. On that, just to refer you to another resource, DuPage County Department of Health has an excellent website with respect to more information about that project and just generally West Nile awareness facts that can help differentiate between the nuisance mosquitoes and the ones that can carry disease that can actually do you harm.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate
Thank you very
it.
much. Appreciate you
Thanks.
coming down. Other questions or comments of a general nature from any members of the audience? Hearing none, that brings us to item 5, which is reserved for council member reports. This is an opportunity for council members to report out on any items of general interest or goings-on in the community. Let's start with Commissioner Olson.
Yeah, I wanted him to report on. The Senior Home Sharing is having a safety presentation on Thursday, July 17th at 6:30 p.m. That's going to be at the Senior Home Sharing Residence at 6821 Main Street in Downers Grove, adjacent to McCollum Park. They are going to hear from professionals from our own village about safety and security, fire safety, and emergency preparedness. So thanks to staff for working with this group and providing these resources and the information to seniors. We're asking seniors to, RSVP by calling 630-407-0440, extension 10, or emailing info@seniorhomesharing.org. So this should be a great resource for seniors in the community to get additional information. It should be an hour on Thursday, July 17th, 6:30 p.m. and hear from some interesting and beneficial information about safety, security, fire safety, and emergency preparedness. Again, RSVP 630-407-0440, extension 10. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Jose?
No report, Mayor, thank you.
Commissioner Rankin?
No report, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Durkin?
No report.
The only thing I will report out is just a reminder to all residents that we are having a coffee with the council coming up on July 19th from 9 a.m. until 10 a.m. That will be at the Main Street Station area adjacent to the downtown market. So if any residents want to stop by on their way to pick up fruits and vegetables or other wonderful things at the downtown market, want to come by and share any further thoughts on either stormwater or mosquitoes or anything else that they'd like to in the community, it's your opportunity to do so in an informal environment. The only thing that we ask is that you don't buy any tomatoes before you come speak to us, because we've had some incidents with people. We're just kidding. That's all I have for my report. That brings us to item 6, public hearings. We have no public hearings tonight, so that'll bring us to item 7, which is our consent agenda. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments from any members of the audience with respect to any items on the consent agenda tonight? Any questions or comments from any members of the village council with respect to any of the items on the consent agenda? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Durkin? Aye. Commissioner Olson?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. Consent agenda passes unanimously. That brings us to item 8, which is our active agenda. We have one item on our active agenda tonight. Do I have a motion to adopt an ordinance approving a redevelopment agreement with Downers Grove, Illinois, 1201 Ogden LLC?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments from any members of the audience with respect to this item? Any questions or comments from members of the council with respect to this item? Commissioner Jose?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to thank staff for the additional answer on the necessity of the use of TIF funds here. Like I'm sure several members of the council, if not everyone, I too think that this is a good expenditure of TIF funds. This is exactly what we're looking for. This will be a great redevelopment on Ogden, and I'd like to thank the staff, the EDC, and the developer for undertaking the project. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from members of the council? Just echo what I said last time. This is a textbook example of what TIF dollars should be used for, and we're looking forward to a terrific project. Good luck with it. With that, roll call, please.
Commissioner Durkin?
Aye.
Commissioner Olson?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. Matter passes unanimously.
Mayor, if I might?
Sure.
Yeah, Jason Gigo, Insight Real Estate, representative of the developer, 1400 16th Street, Oak Brook, Illinois. I just wanted to say personally, thank you, Mayor, thank you, Village Council, Community Development staff, the EDC, for passing this tonight. We look forward for another successful project here next to the Starbucks we already completed. So I just wanted to say quickly, thank you very much and have a good night.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate those words. And again, good luck with the project.
Thank you.
That brings us to the end of our active agenda and brings us to our first reading or our workshop agenda, where we entertain items for discussion and consideration only. No action will be taken at this point in time, but perhaps at a future date. We have one item under our first reading agenda, item 9A, and as is customary, I will turn the meeting over to Village Manager David Fieldman for presentation of the item.
Thank you, Mayor Tully. This is an ordinance considering a special use amendment to a drive-through facility at 1000 Ogden Avenue. And here to present background information on this item is Acting Community Development Director Stan Popovich.
Good evening, Mr. Popovich.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you, Mr. Fieldman. The item before you tonight is Walgreens at 1000 Ogden Avenue, requesting a special use approval for a 24-hour drive-through facility. The property is at the northeast corner of Main Street and Ogden Avenue. It is within a mile of the Samaritan Hospital, which is at Highland Avenue and 39th Street. The drive-through was originally approved in 1998. This is an overview of the site, Main Street and Ogden Avenue. And we'll zoom in here a little bit more to the specific site that was approved in 1998 via special use for the drive-through. The drive-through is operated between 9 a.m. and 10 p.m. Those were the drive-through hours set in the original special use approval based on neighborhood concerns. The store itself, a walk-in store, it is 24 hours operational. So you can walk in and buy a gallon of milk 24 hours a day, and you can walk into the pharmacy and get your prescription filled 24 hours a day. But the drive-through hours are limited to 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. The drive-through is located here on the east side of the building, so it faces Highland Avenue. As part of the concern with the drive-through by area residents, Highland Avenue in this box was closed to through traffic. So Highland Avenue, in essence, dead ends at this space. So if you're coming down southbound, you can only get so far. If you're going north from Ogden Avenue, you're prohibited from traffic that way. As I noted before, the drive-through is on the east side of the building. There's two primary ways to access the drive-through. One is from Main Street to go around the building in a counterclockwise manner. And then when you exit out either back out westbound towards Main Street or eastbound to Highland and then south to Ogden Avenue. The second way to get in is from Ogden and then up through the drive-through and again exiting out either to Main Street or to Highland Avenue back out to Ogden Avenue. So there's no traffic on Highland Avenue. In essence, all the traffic would be off the primary roads, Main Street and Ogden Avenue, using the drive-through 24 hours a day. I provided a picture of the drive-through here in the upper left. Walgreens is proposing no change to the drive-through window or to the drive-through facility. They are proposing an interior renovation in anticipation of that beginning in August and September. As part of that, they would close the store, but they would like to have the pharmacy drive-through open 24 hours so they can still service their customers through the drive-through there. But the store itself will be closed during the renovation period. The picture on the lower right is a picture of the existing fence and the existing vegetation that provides some pretty significant screening for the neighbors to the north. Walgreens did provide some documentation in terms of the traffic that they anticipate. They anticipate about 20 to 25 cars going through there between 10 p.m. and 9 a.m. Primarily, the traffic that they see in this drive-through is between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. in the morning is when they see that. It's not an even distribution throughout the evening. They do currently have some people that assume that the drive-through is open 24 hours, and they pull up, and inevitably the pharmacist has to say, no, we're closed to the drive-through, please pull around. So they already do see some traffic through the drive-through lane currently, but now they'll be able to service them if this is approved. They do not anticipate any additional traffic going through the drive-through either. There was no public comment received at the Plan Commission meeting. The Plan Commission found that the proposal was consistent with the zoning ordinance and the comprehensive plan. If there's any questions at this time, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Are there any questions from any members of the audience with respect to what is essentially an amendment of an existing special use? Any questions or comments from members of the audience? Any questions or comments from members of the Village Council? Commissioner Durkin.
Yeah, just to recap, this is an existing 24-hour pharmacy now, correct?
Correct. The walk-in pharmacy and store is 24 hours.
Do we know where the nearest 24-hour drive-up facility is?
There are drive-up facilities in Glen Ellen. There are drive-up facilities, I believe, in Wheaton, and there's a Jewel Osco in Westmont that's 24 hours.
With the drive-up?
Correct.
I have no issues with this. I'll be supporting this. I think it makes a whole lot of sense, especially in the vicinity of the hospital. And with you stating where the nearest facilities with a 24-hour drive-up, this just to me makes absolute sense, and especially since we didn't have any public comment during the Plan Commission. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Rankin.
As part of the notice of the Plan Commission hearing, were the direct neighbors obviously notified?
Yes,
Like
in
42,
accordance with our
36.
requirements, notification was provided.
Our new notification requirements.
This was applied for underneath the old zoning ordinance, so it was the old zoning ordinance requirements. So we just missed that one. They did, Walgreens did specifically talk to the three neighbors on Highland Avenue that would be most impacted, and Walgreens informed us that they had no concerns about it.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Jose? No? Commissioner Wilson? Just to pick up on what Commissioner Durkin said, I think the demonstrated need to have this resource available, I think, goes without saying, particularly given changes in healthcare generally in our society. Unlike a lot of requests that we get for certain special uses, this is one that we actually can see in effect. It's been in place for a number of years, so there's no guesswork involved here. We know exactly how the drive-through operates. We know exactly what the traffic impact is. We know exactly what the impact on the neighborhood is. There's no speculation or guesswork required here. And if anything, the traffic is likely to be less during the additional hours than they are when it is currently open. So I don't think that there's any real concerns here at all, and particularly when in 1998, as an accommodation in the neighborhood, that street was closed. Gosh, I'm almost old enough to remember that project. I think that goes a long way towards addressing it anyway. This is probably one of those things that I bet you if it had been revisited within, close your ears, if it had been revisited within a few years after opening up, it probably wouldn't have been a big deal, but what happens is oftentimes when special uses are granted, people don't know what the traffic impact's going to be. They're not sure how the operation is going to be, not quite sure how it's going to impact the neighborhood. So you want to proceed cautiously, but here we have years of actual experience. So I agree with Commissioner Durkin. I don't see any reason not to support this.
Thank you.
And that was the only item we had on our first reading.
That ends our first reading, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll be voting on that item at our first meeting in August.
Correct.
Right, so it'll be August 5th. That brings us to the end of item 9, first reading our workshop. Brings us to item 10, Mayor's Report. I have no additional items to report out, so it'll take us right to item 11, Manager's Report. Mr. Fieldman?
Just a reminder that at our next meeting, Tuesday, August 5th, we will have a long-range planning meeting focusing on those very same stormwater prioritization and fee setting that the resident spoke of earlier. So that's at our next meeting, Tuesday, August 5th. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to item 12, Attorney's Report. Ms. Petrarca.
Thank you, Mayor. Only the one item to present this evening, and that is an ordinance authorizing a special use to permit a 24-hour pharmacy drive-through at 1000 Ogden Avenue. This will be on the next active agenda.
Good, thank you. That brings us to item 13. Do any members of the Village Council have any items of new business they would like to share or raise with the rest of the council? No items not, I mean, the two of them are gone, so if you want to spring something, now's the time to do it. No? All right. Brings us to item 14. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Durkin?
Aye.
Commissioner Olson?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?